Welcome back to Today Assets Report, your trusted source for the latest breaking news in crypto, finance, and everything that moves the markets. I'm your host, and today we've got some absolutely massive updates coming out of the XRP ecosystem that you simply cannot afford to miss. We're talking Ripple IPO rumors heating up, major political players stepping into the spotlight, and some controversy surrounding Tether that's got the entire crypto community buzzing. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, and let's dive straight into what's happening right now with XRP and the broader digital asset landscape. All right, so let's kick things off with the elephant in the room, XRP's price action and what's really driving it right now. If you've been following the markets lately, you know that XRP has been on quite the journey, and honestly, the volatility we're seeing isn't just random. There are some seriously significant catalysts behind these moves, and understanding them is absolutely crucial if you want to navigate this market successfully. We're not just talking about your typical pump and dump scenario here. No, what we're witnessing is a convergence of regulatory developments, institutional interest, and political influence that's creating a perfect storm for XRP. The token has been catching bids from traders who are clearly positioning themselves ahead of what many believe could be transformative events for Ripple and the entire XRP ecosystem. Now, whether you're a long-term holder or someone who's just watching from the sidelines, you need to understand the forces at play because they're going to shape the trajectory of this asset for months, if not years to come. Now, one of the biggest stories that's absolutely electrifying the XRP community right now is the ongoing speculation about a potential Ripple IPO. We've been hearing whispers about this for quite some time, but recently those whispers have turned into full-blown conversations and the excitement is absolutely palpable. Think about what an IPO would mean for Ripple as a company and for XRP as a digital asset. We're talking about a massive validation of Ripple's business model, their technology, and their position in the global financial infrastructure. An IPO would bring unprecedented transparency to Ripple's operations, their revenue streams, and their growth trajectory. This isn't just some small fintech startup we're talking about. Ripple has established partnerships with financial institutions around the world, and they've been building real utility for XRP in cross-border payments for years. The prospect of going public would signal that Ripple is ready to step into the big leagues, competing directly with traditional financial technology giants. For investors, this represents an opportunity to get exposure to Ripple's growth story in a completely different way than just holding XRP tokens. But here's where things get really interesting, and this is something that a lot of people aren't fully grasping yet. If Ripple does move forward with an IPO, the implications for XRP's price could be absolutely enormous. Now, I want to be clear here, an IPO doesn't automatically mean XRP is going to moon overnight. That's not how this works, and anyone telling you otherwise is probably trying to sell you something. However, what an IPO does do is bring institutional legitimacy, media attention, and a whole new class of investors into the Ripple ecosystem. When traditional investors start buying Ripple stock, they're going to learn about XRP, they're going to understand its utility in Ripple's payment solutions, and many of them are going to want exposure to the token itself. We've seen this pattern play out with other companies in the crypto space. When Coinbase went public, it brought massive attention to the entire crypto industry. When companies associated with blockchain technology hit the public markets, it creates ripple effects, no pun intended, throughout the entire sector. The validation that comes from a successful IPO, from meeting SEC requirements, from having your financials scrutinized by Wall Street analysts, all of that adds credibility that can't be bought with marketing dollars. Speaking of credibility and institutional involvement, we need to talk about some names that have recently been associated with both XRP and the broader crypto conversation: Howard Lutnick and Brock Pierce. These aren't just random crypto influencers or YouTube personalities. We're talking about serious players with deep connections to both traditional finance and the political establishment. Howard Lutnick, the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, is someone who's been around Wall Street for decades. His firm has been involved in everything from government securities to investment banking, and recently, Lutnick's name has been popping up in conversations about crypto in ways that are turning heads. Brock Pierce, on the other hand, is a controversial but undeniably influential figure in the crypto space. He's been involved in blockchain and digital assets since the early days, and his network spans Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and increasingly Washington, D.C. When people like this start talking about specific projects or tokens, the market pays attention. It's not just retail traders reading tweets anymore. We're talking about conversations happening in boardrooms and at levels of power that can actually move markets and influence policy. Now, here's where the controversy comes in, and this is something we absolutely need to address head-on. There's been talk, and I want to emphasize that much of this is speculative, about Lutnick and Pierce having connections to or promoting Tether, the stablecoin that's been at the center of countless debates in the crypto world. Tether, for those who might not be fully up to speed, is the largest stablecoin by market cap, and it's supposed to be backed one-to-one by US dollars and other reserve assets. However, Tether has faced persistent questions about the nature of its reserves, whether it's truly backed the way it claims to be, and what kind of regulatory scrutiny it might face going forward. When influential figures in finance start being associated with Tether, whether through investment, promotion, or partnership, it raises eyebrows. The term shilled has been thrown around, and while that word carries negative connotations, what it really means in this context is that these individuals have been publicly supportive of or involved with Tether in some capacity. This matters because Tether's stability, or lack thereof, has implications for the entire crypto market. But let's connect this back to XRP because that's ultimately what we're here to discuss. The reason these connections matter, the reason we're talking about Lutnick and Pierce and their relationship to Tether, is because all of this is happening in the broader context of regulatory clarity and political influence in the crypto space. We're at a moment in time where the regulatory environment for crypto in the United States is potentially shifting. There's been talk of more crypto-friendly policies, potential changes at the SEC, and a general recognition among policymakers that digital assets aren't going away and need proper regulatory frameworks rather than enforcement through litigation. XRP has been at the absolute center of this battle, having fought a years-long legal war with the SEC over whether XRP should be classified as a security. Ripple's partial legal victory has been celebrated by the crypto community as a watershed moment, but the reality is that regulatory clarity is still evolving. When politically connected figures start engaging with crypto projects, it signals that the lines between traditional finance, crypto, and political power are blurring in ways we haven't seen before. So what's the bottom line here? Where does all of this leave us? The truth is, we're in a moment of significant uncertainty, but also significant opportunity. The pieces are moving on the chessboard. Ripple is potentially positioning for an IPO. The regulatory environment is evolving. Political and financial power players are increasingly engaged with crypto. Tether continues to be controversial, but also deeply embedded in market infrastructure. XRP's price is responding to all of these forces, creating volatility but also potential. For anyone invested in XRP or considering it, the key is to stay informed, to understand the various factors in play, to think critically about news and rumors, and to make decisions based on your own risk tolerance and investment thesis. Don't get caught up in hype, but also don't be so cynical that you miss real developments. This is a dynamic, rapidly changing space, and those who can navigate the complexity with clear thinking and good information will be best positioned to benefit. Here at Today Assets Report, we're going to keep tracking these stories, breaking down the news, and giving you the analysis you need to stay ahead. Make sure you're subscribed, drop a comment below telling us what you think about the Ripple IPO prospects or the Tether controversy. And as always, stay safe out there in these markets. We'll see you in the next one.